It's Broncos week, and they have won 4 games by a combined total of 9 points. Sounds familiar? Today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back for another episode of Locked On Chiefs, your daily podcast covering the Kansas City Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And just so you know, we are now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Thank you all for that. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for always making Locked On Chiefs your first listen of the day. Don't forget, we're free and available on all platforms. I am Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. This is Ryan Tracy from RGR Football and Rogue Analytics, as well as NFL 33. We're going to be talking about the protection plan. How do they protect Patrick Mahomes? Is Denver's offense dangerous? That is a big question. But the Broncos are the 2024 Chiefs. That's where we're going to start. And as I said in the intro, they've won 4 games by a combined score of 9 points. That sounds eerily familiar to a lot of Chiefs fans from last year. But to me, it's a lot different story for the Broncos than it was for Kansas City last year.
It is. There are similarities, right? This is a team that the offense is inconsistent. The Chiefs were inconsistent last year, right? They're still able to put up more points. They were inconsistent. The defense is leading the way for the Broncos, a lot like the defense was higher tier last year for the Chiefs as well, right? And yet they got to the Super Bowl. There is significant success that comes even from this formula. Maybe you call it a little bit lucky, maybe you don't. I actually live in Colorado, and the fans in Denver are losing their minds because now they're so great, yet they were complaining about how G's were winning close games last year. Oh, how the tide has turned. But I agree with you. The 2025 Denver Broncos are the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs.
The difference, though, for me, though, and this is what it comes down to, is Kansas City had been there and done that. This was their 3rd time that they were headed to the Super Bowl in a row. Denver hasn't been – I mean, they've been playing playoff football a little bit, but they really haven't been successful since Peyton Manning left. Sustained postseason success, we'll put it that way. And so to me, it's still a completely different scenario. Like, yes, they're winning a lot of close games. Yes, it's sustainable for an entire season. But what Kansas City has found this year and what Denver is likely to find maybe through the rest of the season and maybe it'll be next year is that there's going to be a reversion to the mean. Kansas City reverted to the mean this year. They took a lot of their bounces that went the other direction this year, and it bit them early. And I'm not trying to make excuses for their losses. They lost their games. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm trying to say. But there was a reversion to the mean where they got bounces that helped them last year. They didn't get them in their losses this year.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. It is that random. Everything can change in an instant. And I think that what you take out is the lows and the highs. The teams are still good. It's not that it's because you're winning those close games on some crazy plays or, I don't want to call it luck. There's an element of luck in this game no matter what you're doing, but sometimes it's about how you put yourself in position to take advantage of that luck. And that all goes into preparation, and I do think it is a factor in these close games. But it also tells you that, like the Chiefs last year, when you felt like, hey, a lot of these games could have been lost, the same thing is true for the Denver Broncos, especially this week. When you only allowed yourself to put up 10 points against the worst defense in this division and arguably in the AFC against the Raiders.
Or NFL.
Well, there's that too. It's a combination, and we're going to go through their offense next, but it's their defense that has been really clamping down, but yet this was not a game that should have been this close, and they did it again. I think that will eventually bite them, and I think the Chiefs are the team that will bite them.
X is a special place, I'll just put it that way, and just seeing some of the comments, I mean, people talking about how Patrick Mahomes is, not the leader in the division at the quarterback position anymore. I'm just sitting here going, you're anointing Bo Nix, who hasn't really played any really great games in the NFL, the next best thing at quarterback when you have the guy that has led the AFC team in the Super Bowl for the past 3 seasons and has won 3 and played in 5 out of 6. Like, I don't see how you can even try to make a comparison, because the reality is that while, okay, let's go back for just a second. Preseason, no, seriously. Preseason, you start learning, okay, what can you get away with in the NFL to an extent? Regular season, it amps up a little bit. You haven't even started getting into the playoff scenarios as to how much the game changes when you start getting into the playoffs. Like, Bo Nix isn't going to be ready for what it's going to be like at that level. And then you get to the level beyond that into the championship game in the Super Bowl. He hasn't been in any of those games. That's a completely different experience. Now, I'm not saying he can't possibly get there in the future. He'll have to go through Patrick Mahomes. I still think this thing goes through Kansas City this year. And we talked about it on Monday's show. I think that when you look at this and you look at how the schedules break out, if Kansas City can start putting things together kind of like they did 3 weeks ago, I think that they could end up going to win the division again, because they control their own destiny in the AFC West. They face the Chargers once, they face the Broncos twice, and I would think that the Chargers are going to lose to the Broncos at least once. So
that's
to me, I would think, yeah,
that's a very likely scenario. And the Chiefs win those 3 games, they are virtually tied with the same record, and you don't even have to worry about what else happens.
Right. So, I mean, they've already lost to the Chargers once. I think that they possibly lose to the Chargers again on January 4th. We will see if that happens. But again, they play the Green Bay Packers. They play Jacksonville. They play the Commanders, who I think by then should have, maybe not Jaden Daniels back. So a lot of questions when it comes to how this Denver Broncos team is going to play out. But you look at the Chargers, and I know we're focused on the Broncos, but you look at the Chargers, who've lost both of their starting tackles as well. That's going to cause them issues. And the reality is I still think Kansas City controls their own destiny in this division, because if they win the 3 games and the 4 games they have left in their division, I think that puts them in prime position to win the AFC West this year.
I agree with you, but I will say this game could be the deciding factor.
Absolutely.
If you drop this game, you don't have a chance to go catch them anymore. You have to rely on somebody else to beat them twice, or 3 times at that point. I don't see that happening. So control your destiny right now.
Yeah, and you lose your ability to really gain any of the tiebreakers. I mean, that's really going to be the bigger issue, is the tiebreakers are going to be gone for you.
Yep, that's what it comes down to.
When we get back, we're going to talk about this Denver Broncos offense and questioning whether or not it's actually dangerous after they put up 10 points against the Las Vegas Raiders.
You're a business owner. Here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now average companies buried behind hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software delivered as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform of global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They helped millions of businesses replace a mesh of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting employees, teams, departments back and forth in one system, Rippling removes all the bottlenecks, allows you to get the busy work out of the way. The silos that created that software are gone. And right now you can get 6 months for free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions do apply. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets that happen during the game. Everything for everyone who will score from the next point to the fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine them all into a same game parlay, take an even bigger shot at a payout. Keeps everything exciting. It keeps it up to the minute, especially when your team's making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So go ahead to FanDuel.com and sign up. Over at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
The Denver Broncos offense, and you look at this and you look at how they've played so far this year. It's been up and down, and I'm sitting here looking at their schedule. First game, 20 points. Second game, 28 points, then 20 points, 28, 21. then 13 against the New York Jets, who do have a good defense or did have a good defense until they sold away half of their team. And then 32-44. And then the Houston Texans, they only score 18. And then against the Raiders, they score 10. I don't know what to make of this offense. It's just it's very hot or cold. And when you look at what they could have used going into this trade season, a wide receiver would have been at the top of the list, in my opinion. Sutton is a good wide receiver, but that's really all they have. And I don't see a lot that's really helping them in that regard.
Well, I see where you're coming from on the consistency part of Sutton being a consistent threat. And you got to remember, in the last 4 weeks, Dallas is one of the worst defenses in the league. New York hasn't been playing well, and Houston's Houston, and they've been declining is what it comes down to. But I will say this. There's a panic here in Colorado about their performance. For me, sitting back watching local news, it's kind of funny. But I will say this. There was a big play called back by Troy Franklin, a guy that played in college with Bo Nix. And I'm a Bo Nix guy. I liked him coming out. Was not happy to see him in the AFC West. But if they click, they can still be dangerous. I think Franklin can help. I think their tight ends can get the ball moved at least some. And they had been able to run pretty well. It looks like Dobbins is hurt. We don't know the extent of that yet. I haven't seen an official proclamation. I'm going to double check that right now. But I think making them one-dimensional is the way that you have to go about it, because other than James Cook this season, the Chiefs have been on the run compensation here, being able to at least take that away enough to force the offense into something they don't want to do. And I think that's exactly what you're going to have to do for this. You guys are going to hear our preview on Friday, and we'll lay it all out there. But I do feel you can force this team to where you want them to go.
And to be clear, I'm not saying that they don't have some pieces. Franklin can be a competent wide receiver. Sutton has had his time, and definitely against Kansas City has had some big moments against Kansas City. He hates the Chiefs. It is what it is. I just think you look at this offense, and it's so inconsistent week to week to week. And you go back and you talk about them beating the Dallas Cowboys and scoring a ton of points. That defense that they went against is atrocious, and yet they go against a defense that's probably as bad in the Raiders, and they only score 10 points. Like, if this team is not able to show consistency on offense, I have a hard time believing that they're going to have a chance to beat Kansas City, because I will say this. I'm not going to give my prediction right now, but I have a hard time believing that Kansas City doesn't put up 24 points or more in this game. Yes, the Denver Broncos defense is fantastic, but this Chiefs offense has a lot of special players on it, and I just have I have a very hard time seeing them not put up points 2 games in a row, especially when they know what the stakes are.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's more to come, and obviously we'll start getting the actual practice reports this week. But if Dobbins is able to go, and again, we don't have a significant indication right now, if he does therapy, et cetera, like that, I think it changes and it balances out their offense. It makes them a little bit more dangerous. If he's not, I think it sets the Chiefs up to be able to exploit what they feel are Bo Nix's limitations. And clearly, by taking away running lanes, he didn't scramble at all last week. It was negative yards. I think that's part of what bails him out when he does have some frustrations. It does settle him down. I think George Karlaftis in particular is going to have an opportunity to try to get after him pretty well. I think that is the key to really making these Broncos have to go through a different process against you than maybe they've had when they have been successful this year, where it's been a little bit more freewheeling in the games that I've seen.
Yeah, and I mean, if Dobbins is able to play, it obviously changes things for the Broncos. They have been very good. They've been effective with him running the ball, and they've got a couple of other nice pieces there in the backfield that they can use at different times. And if they're not having to be the workhorse and then come in and just kind of spell Dobbins, that's going to help them as well. So I do think when you look at how this Broncos offense is, if they can keep Nix upright and they are able to move the ball both running and passing, obviously it's going to be something that is going to help them in this game. But on the flip side, for the Chiefs defense going against this Broncos offense, you have to feel like you at least have a corner that can somewhat match up with Sutton to an extent with the way Jalen Watson has played. And I'm not saying he has the same size that Sutton is, but he has better size than McDuffie does, so that's going to help too. I do think that that's a matchup that they should be, okay with. Again, I'm not saying that he should be on him one-on-one every single snap, but I would expect that you take advantage of the size a little bit, and you use that to your advantage, and let McDuffie go off on, Franklin or anybody else on the side. Try to line it up that way and use his strengths to shut down one of those guys. And you can double Sutton to an extent as well with your safeties.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, I'm going to be really, really interested in how they choose to align at practice this week with Noel Williams, because Noel is a guy who's undersized, but does play physical. And I think that's the way that you disrupt Sutton is you get in his grill, you disrupt where he wants to go with the ball and kind of ride his routes out. And that physicality can play havoc with timing. And that's honestly, I think, the thing that the Broncos have been successful with. When that goes out the window, I think you have the advantage. But it's also something that you have to make sure that you're guarding experience versus inexperience with Noel Williams in particular.
Yeah. And that's a big question. When you look at how this is going to play out, Noel Williams going against Sutton is going to be a little bit of a question, but he has played in big moments already for this Chiefs team and played well. He has shown that he belongs in the NFL. They know what his skill set is, and they put him in good positions. So the question is can you get the rest of the defense to play up to the task of facing off against this Broncos offense? And again, I said this yesterday on Monday's show, talking about how the Chiefs have to be ready for this game on defense and on offense, but on defense specifically, because this is going to be a situation where they're going to get the Broncos' best possible offense that they possibly can play with. I think the Broncos overlooked the Raiders. I think they thought that they were just going to go in there and maybe they're not going to steamroll them, but they're going to beat it by 2 scores, and it's not going to be a particularly close game. And they got outplayed to a certain extent. Yes, they won the game, but to win the game by 3 against the Raiders, it's not a loss, but it's close.
A whole lot.
It's the Raiders that they've been horrible this year. An 8-2 team should not be playing down to the Raiders like that, even if you want to talk about divisional football and all of that. Say what you want. I get the Bills lost to the Dolphins. I get that, but the Bills still put up more than 10 points.
True. And that's what it all comes down to.
Protection plan. How do the Chiefs protect against this Denver Broncos pass rush and protect Patrick Mahomes and get this offense going? That's next.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Protection is going to be the name of the game. That is the reality of going into this game against the Broncos. They have a fantastic pass rush, and we talked about this a little bit on yesterday's show. Josh Simmons is back. Question is will he start? And we know Jalen Moore could possibly start regardless of whether or not Simmons starts, because we don't know right now if Taylor's going to be able to go or not. I would think that he'll be okay based on what I saw, but we'll see. I'm really going to be curious at how that plays out when we start getting injury reports.
I am as well, because it's going to be critical. When you look at this duo, between them, you're talking about 86 pressures and 21 sacks. on the season at this point, with Benito hitting the quarterback dramatically more in near collisions at on another 11 on top of that. Now, these are guys that are lighter, they're linebacker type edges, and they are a little bit quicker. So it does play into the hands of both Jawaan and Josh. Jalen a little bit less. I don't think he quite handles speed as well as the other two do. The question is going to be is Jawaan ready to go? And if he is he ready to line up actually on the line of scrimmage and not in the backfield? Because this is the type of game with threats from speed rushers that he generally gets in trouble, puts himself in trouble, either leaving early or aligning incorrectly.
Especially
so that's
on the
job
road.
number one. Absolutely. And that's one of the tougher spots. But I believe the footwork of all of the Chiefs tackles is enough to protect Patrick Mahomes, especially if he's not particularly lingering for a long time. Now, there's a couple of X factors here. Alex Singleton, one of their linebackers, just announced that he has testicular cancer, had surgery already. I don't know what
Prayers
that
up,
means.
Alex.
Yeah, right. I don't know what that means for him in terms of availability. That
He's out
doesn't
this.
sound.
I would assume he's out this week.
I would assume that as well, but he played against Vegas, so what do I know?
Well, yeah, but he had surgery right after. So
Was it right after?
from what I understood of what's going on, he said he's going to try to be back by the end of the season.
Okay.
Didn't specify when. I would imagine after having any kind of surgery, you're going to be out the next week. Obviously, if he's not, that's a completely different, kudos to you type situation. And to be clear, by all means, prayers up, dude. I hope that you are able to recover in full, and that's not what you wish on anybody. I don't wish injury or anything to any of the players. So,
that said, it changes it because the other way that you protect Patrick is by attacking that hole and running the dang ball more than you have recently.
And you should have Pacheco back, which I think will help in that regard. But the other thing that I will say that I think is going to be huge in this game, that if you would have asked me before the season, I would have been really nervous. Kings of Suamati is kind of gotten to a point where I've eliminated my worries. I'm not going to say like completely.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah, sorry. I will say though, he has played so well. Like I'm not obviously saying that he's in the same mold as Joe Thuney, obviously not going there, but he has played so well that he has made it feel like it's not a huge step back, which is a huge compliment to Suamati for stepping in and playing a brand new position to him and playing it well and getting it to the point where you really don't feel it. Like Kansas City hasn't felt the step down like you thought you were going to feel the step down. Because the other reality was when you look back at last year, it was they couldn't do anything at left tackle, right? And so Joe Thuney moved out there, and then you had a hole at left guard. Now you kind of feel like you got both those positions taken care of, especially if Simmons is able to step back in and play well. And
shout out to Joe Thuney. He's one of the few players at a guard position who's played over 600 snaps already this year. He's the top graded guard in the league. So more power to you. Kingsley being able to even be in the same breath with him at this point is a bonus at this point in the season, from my book. I thought maybe he would round into shape by about this time and let the bye week, give him a little breather and maybe he could settle down. But he is ahead of schedule, especially after the position change. And that only allows the tackle situation to clarify itself more. So I agree. He's doing well, but you got to let him be him. And again, that goes back to running the ball more.
It does.
In my book.
No, it absolutely does. And I think the other thing that it says about him is that if he's able to do this, switching positions in his second year, I think the sky's the limit. I'm not going to get ahead of myself and say he can become, super all pro Joe Thuney, but he is playing very well. And all you really need is above average play at that position between Simmons and Creed Humphrey, and you're going to have a good offensive line. So I think that's really what you have to look at. And I think that if you can continue to get him comfortable in that position. And the other part of it is you look at what happened to him last week. He got hurt last week. He came out for a couple of plays last week, but he ended up going back into the game. That's what you want to see from your offensive lineman. I'm not saying play through, injuries that are going to hurt your team. Don't get me wrong. but he showed toughness, which is exactly what you need to see moving from left tackle to guard. And he has exceeded my expectations by far and continues to show that I think that this is going to be a great pick by Veach long term. So the protection is going to be very important in this game. Obviously, I hope Simmons can play because I think that really helps the left side of the line. Nothing against Jalen Moore, but I think Simmons would be much better there if he's able to go. But the other side of it, it comes down to I don't know about Taylor. And while I expect that he'll play with an ankle injury and a knee injury, is he going to be effective in this game?
That's the question.
And if he isn't effective in this game, you don't really feel great about your backup if you have to have Jalen Moore as your left tackle.
You're absolutely right. We should know more tomorrow. Matt Derrick's going to be with us. He's going to break it down from inside the building. And later in the week, we're going to talk about this matchup because the guy we didn't mention, the Kingsley is going to play quite a bit, is Zach Allen. That's a whole other topic because he's putting up as much pressure as the other two are, and we will get to him later in the week.
That is going to be it for us today. Thank you all for listening to the Locked On Chiefs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Thank you all again for that. We really do appreciate that. And we will talk to you tomorrow.